welcome to NewGen Presents ET Studios Digital Compass Season 2 in association with ET-CIO. This is our ongoing series that deep dives into some of the low-code solutions that power end-to-end automation at an enterprise scale. I'm Shilpa Ratnam, and on the panel today we have Sunil Pandita, VP India South Asia NewGen Software. Hello and welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We have Mahesh Ramamurthy, CIO, Yes Bank. Hello, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening and great to have you around.
Fantastic to have you here, sir. And Nitin Sawant, EY India Cloud Leader.
Hello,
Nitin.
hi.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. All right, my first question is to all of our three panelists. Now, in the context of a rapidly changing world, why is it crucial for organizations to move beyond localized sequential automation and adopt a modern tech stack?
From a practitioner's perspective, I think in a bank, especially I would look at a financial institution, the times that we are living in expects instant changes to be done to customer experiences or to internal efficiencies. When you look at some of these expectations that are there, a traditional model essentially does not allow you to create the agility. A low-code model essentially allows you to pre-package a lot of capabilities, drag and drop a lot of utilities, and create UIs that are much more friendly, and also create an end-to-end flow, journeys as we call it, in a far more lower time, quite agile, within the kind of integration that is required to quickly onboard and give it on to the business users. I think that really makes the change, which is why, given the kind of rapidity of change and the rapidity of competition that comes in, businesses do demand agility, and low-code approach is what is a differentiator that really comes to the market now.
Absolutely, sir. Greatly articulated.
Yeah, and I think I would like to add what Mahesh said just now. So from the integration perspective, a bank, the definition of a bank or a institution is going beyond the physical boundaries. And if you look at a typical bank now, it is integrating with an ecosystem, with all the fintechs, the external third-party providers. And when you are building a simple application, if you follow the traditional approach of writing code for everything that is around you, it would take a lot of time, as Mahesh mentioned, and you would not be able to really bring out that feature or that business capability out in the market in that agile fashion now. And low-code, no-code platforms really allow you to have those adapters and connectors with all the, of course, taking care of the visual programming paradigms and the user experience, content-rich user experience as well, to bring out those features faster into the market. So I think it is really imperative with the ecosystem changing so rapidly. Low-code, no-code solutions are the right option to really move with agility out there in the market.
So I would love for you to take it up and further that.
So you heard the practitioner's view, you also heard the consultant view. I'll try to give we're a technology service provider. So banking is the fiercest competitive industry today in our country. Regulation-wise, they keep changing very fast. And customer expectations, again, the yardstick and the changes there are humongous. So a traditional stack will have limitations, and like Mahesh rightly pointed out, what really is an expectation from a modern stack? It is something which is cloud-ready, use dynamic scaling of cloud, something which enables APIification, right? Something which allows you to reimagine customer journeys. And if you talk of customer journeys right from the point of onboarding a customer, then giving that customer experience across multi-channels, being able to have integration points at different instances of the customer's journey, leveraging the stack which is available from fintechs, bureaus, from the government, and having a operations layer which makes sure that the customer experience does not just end at onboarding, but it's carried through the entire process end to end. And eventually be able to integrate with even legacy systems, because they are a reality, so they'll still exist. So for us, that really is what we see banks today wanting to achieve, to be future ready. And the most important word for me there is being able to change rapidly. And he summarized it pretty well.
Absolutely. So, taking it off from there, from the regulation point of view, it's constantly evolving. In this sort of landscape, how exactly does this modern tech stack set you apart and help you thrive?
So I think the opportunity lies in how you see it. Today, let's take from the situation of how you onboard a customer. Now, in a traditional world, you always had the opportunity to meet the customer, take some documents, use 24 hours to 72 hours to essentially open an account. In today's world, if you attempt to do that, I think you lose the customer. Whether you're selling him or her a savings account or current account, or selling them a personal loan. So what do you really require to do? You are required to essentially be able to help your own salesperson or the website, or do it yourself as we call it, an ability for the prospect to become a customer in under 3 minutes, under 7 minutes. How do you do that? You really do it by using technology, and technology like these low codes, no codes, to be able to bring together content in a way that is best seamlessly interfacing in the front, but at the same time being able to integrate quite fast from the back end. So any journey is like this. The same applies when you look at back office. Now, hey, you've onboarded in the front, but what happens? When you go into the back office, you have a lot of areas where you today have operations who essentially do a lot of Excel-based approaches. Low code essentially gives you the opportunity to be able to design the process flow in a way that you can quickly go to them operations and allow them to create more efficiencies. So what does it benefit to the business? There are multiple use cases. If I were to say, maybe you can dream up about at least 100 plus use cases. But what is the important aspect that such agility brings to the table is, one, on the front end is about customer experience. You create experiences where the customer has a wow factor coming in. Another, back office gives you the efficiencies. You do more for the same or less. So that's what you really look for. And the combination of this is cost, opportunity to get more balances or to sell more. So these are, I could go on. It could go into the risk area, it could go in finance area. So I think the name it, at the end of the day today, anything and everything in a process or a journey in a banking ecosystem has technology. So we need to ensure that we essentially use low code to drive that more in a very integrated way to drive efficiencies and the cost to it. So what's more important at the end of it is for any institution to use the power of technology and the newer technologies around low code, no code to create its efficiencies as well as experiences and drive its business growth. I think that's what we should really look for, and that's what we are aiming to achieve.
So, I would also love to know how you deal with legacy, especially when you combine them with modern tech stacks. Do they work together?
Absolutely. I'm saying is, while the core bankings, or for that matter, some of the core system of records continue its, I would say, semi-legacy. I wouldn't call them all legacy. Semi-legacy is about 8, 9 years old technology or 10-year-old technology. I would say that a lot of the API-led approaches that we've taken, and with the kind of translation which we call it as ESB, Enterprise Service Bus, a combination of the API and ESB essentially allow new age systems like the low-code approaches to talk more effectively with the core systems. So to me, what really helps is essentially not really start changing everything at one go, but start creating, I would say, wrappers. These wrappers essentially allow you to continue to modernize the front end or enable your front end capabilities, experiences, while you continue to probably over time unplug the back end or move the back end into a better technology. So yes, they do collaborate well. There are issues, but these issues essentially have to be managed more structurally as a part of our architectural framework.
You did speak about CX, and I would love to know from you, how does Newgen One contribute to engaging customers throughout their journey, combining omni-channel engagement with powerful process automation and back-end integration?
Sure. So I think CX is really the crux that determines your ability to attract new customers and generate a lifetime value of customers in a very fickle loyalty kind of market. So how do you drive it? One is your interaction points when you're starting a conversation, doing lead generation, and then onboarding a customer. And equally, how do you actually complete that entire journey? Now, what we have done is we also have embedded AI as part of even your CX, which means that each customer is treated differently at an n is equal to 1 level, which is hyper personalization. With that and with analytics combined, you are able to do decisioning, which is based data available of the customers. So you're enhancing the customer experience. Another important component around CX is, besides UI, UX, is being able to constantly communicate with the customer, right, across channels of his choice and across during the entire life cycle of the customer. So having a layer of communication which allows you to do that communication with the customer through WhatsApp, through SMS, through email, at every step in customer journey is something which is also helpful. So eventually you give an experience which the customer is really delighted about.
Absolutely. It's all about engaging with all those multiple touch points at this point in time. You spoke about AI, and I want to come back to AI integration later. But before that, I'd like to know from you, sir, what role does LC&C play in bridging the gaps between banks and fintechs that you work with?
That's a very loaded question, but I would put it slightly differently in the sense fintechs today challenge the bank to think differently. They don't challenge the bank from a business model, but they challenge the bank from how you deliver tech. Because at the end of the day, a bank have always been a fair bit of N-1 or N-2 from a technology adoption perspective. But as banks begin to expand its distribution or use fintechs to probably in terms of expand its payments reach, what happens is you start off thinking as to, hey, how do you match up with the narrow band in which fintechs play? See, banks play across multiple horizontal. You have different products across different domains. Fintechs play in a very narrow vertical. And when they provide very targeted capabilities or experiences to a customer, they really come back and say, hey, what can you do to segue into one of their journeys? So this is where you see a combination of APIs and low codes essentially fits in well. I'll give you an example. Now, when you have, say, a fintech who's essentially operating in a space of, say, onboarding customer for a kind of an asset journey, a PL journey in which he or she is doing some other capabilities or services. But at the end of the day, that fintech would not be able to distribute the money or lend the money. They come back to us. But when you do that, how are they going to be able to help you do that? They're going to now reach out to the bank to say, hey, can you do in terms of the validation of the customer, all the KYCs, and how do you quickly come back to me? And how do you then give me a success or a failure or a rejection? And when you do that, it is essentially, now here is where a combination of API constructs, which does all the orchestration behind, and at the front end, you integrate into that journey using, say, a low-code kind of a platform, essentially helps you bridge the gap. And they are at speed. Fintechs operate at speed because that's a narrow band. We operate Now, with these kind of platforms, it helps you move fast because you can quickly stitch up a journey, validate it, plug your backend journeys, and from an API perspective, move it front. So I think this is one simple use case that I've talked about, but there are multiple use cases that you can really think through on journeys. And that's where banks today, and we also use it, and it really gets us probably a faster time to market, a faster time to integrate, and hence integrate with a bunch of partners what are they going to do? They're going to expand our business and expand our distribution. So that's what it helps.
So I really appreciate the clear way in which you elucidated that from your experience. Now we're talking about AI integration, and I want to take that across to you, Nitin. In your experience, how does the adoption of low-code platforms align with achieving real-time decisions and straight-through processing, especially in the context of AI integration?
Yeah, just to continue from where Mahesh just spoke, the business journey observability is a very essential thing in really making both the core banking solutions and the on-prem solutions, which are at the speed of the bank, whereas there are the fintechs moving at a faster pace, as Mahesh mentioned. How do we really do that impedance matching, right? And what's really happening is the low code. There are two parts. There is a low code technology and there is a no code technology. And I think for enterprises and banks, the low code expandability that it provides in terms of APIs and how do you stitch together your journeys back into your core solutions is going to be really the key to get the maximum buck for the banks. And what I am really seeing out there is with the AI integration. And when you say AI integration, I think Sunil also mentioned that their product also has now on the user experience side a lot of AI built into it. And if you look at the technology, the AI technology, the way it is moving, it is you name the large AI providers now, all of them can be invoked into your application using APIs, right? And low code, no code technologies really allows you to integrate, take your API strategy ahead to make sure that you are leveraging the best of the cutting edge AI technology with a drag drop and a visual programming experience rather than really trying to understand the new cutting edge AI paradigms, which probably you do not have the skills in-house to leverage them. And I think that's where I think it's all coming together to make sure that from the user experience perspective, you are also leveraging back-end AI technology using low-code, no-code.
That's a great glimpse into that. Thank you so much. And Sunil, what makes low-code platforms accessible to everyone, especially in comparison to restrictive legacy systems?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think the whole idea is how do you democratize application development? And with that, you're giving the power of application development to a business user. So reducing the need and dependence on IT. And that's a great thing to do because they are the users who are closest to the domain, to the understanding of business. And when you give them the power of developing the application, they're not only able to visualize the front end, but even the journey, which is most appropriate for a particular customer segment, they're able to do that, which allows them to develop applications really quickly without having to do a lot of code. So what it does is it reduces your time to bring out an application, roll out quickly, and do automation at scale. Right, brings in agility. The second important parameter is whenever they have to make changes, often you will see that business going back to IT and saying that, hey, there's a change. I want to change this rule for this lending application, or I want to have a different approval matrix. So that they are able to do on their own. Again, compressing the timelines to be able to do that. And the third part is when you have that power, you're able to use the same platform to deploy more products on the same platform. So you can use it to deploy a retail journey, or an MSME journey, an agri journey, and various schemes within that with that platform which the business users can visualize. So,
all right. Now any conversation about the BFSI is incomplete without a discussion about the DPDP bill, which is coming. And now with the advent of the bill, it's now become imperative for banks to relook at the way personal data is being collected and managed. How are financial institutions, you think, tapping into LC&C technologies to stay compliant and agile?
Yeah, and I think though this question is for me, I think
Mahesh,
this is relevant to all three of us.
Absolutely.
All three of us. I think from the technology perspective, the DPDP bill, what it will mean for customers and their experience is that you will be asked for consent almost real time, whether that data should be shared or not to be shared. And all the low code, no code technologies, whether it is the products or the just the front end experience kind of products as well, will have to have that feature built into the product, right? Also, integration with some of the validating agencies will have to be part of the low code, no code platforms. And finally, I think the way it is going to expand is how do you really protect and preserve the data, right? And that's where I think we recently just heard the announcement around RBI also going for an India cloud. I think that protection of data is something which the DPDP bill is also driving, and we'll see more ownership and accountability around the data, not just from uh, the product vendors, but also from the banks as well as consultants like us who are really going to advise on what kind of controls and regulations should be a part of the overall compliance policy of the banks.
Now let me take that across to the
Yeah.
practitioner.
Yeah. So I think from a bank perspective, I see it, while I agree to what Nitin had just articulated, I think a lot of the low-code platforms do not store data. I think they store the journey information, but they don't capture data. So which means that they really help you do is to your ability to define how quickly you can mask the information, how quickly you can define whether they are attributes of that particular data is going to be very critical. In a normal coding, what happens is you are dependent on the design of the data structure. You're dependent on the design of the UI and the UX, which is what you eliminate when you come into a kind of a low-code approach where you can define that anything, you can define, I would call it for simplistic terms, an object, which is something which is sitting like a date field. Fair enough, you may say expose it. But when you look at an account number field, you can say by default create masking and only allow this. So which means then when you reuse that object into a screen, you don't reuse programming. You don't go through the same. It's just that you drag into it and drop in. It gets it. Ultimately, the data resides in a system of record. That system of record would anyway create its own infrastructure and the associated controls to it. So I think the low code helps you achieve your deep data protection norms faster, in addition to what Nitin was saying, because you can do the consent-based approach faster, you can pop up the page faster, but also in terms of defining your fields for data capture and presentation, much more slicker. I think these are my simple 2 cents that I can look through. Obviously far more, but these are, in my level, quick 2 things that I can dream of right now.
All right, sir. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into that. Now, I would also like to know, how do you harness low-code technology to deliver content-rich experiences for users? Already you mentioned about CX, but is there any aspect that you would like to elaborate on?
Well, we have lots. I'm saying there is no dearth of what we do. Platforms like what Sunil has, and I think we have what his company really provides. It gives us a lot of flexibility to do it. You can name it and you can pull in there. Like, let's take a simple use case. A customer walks into a branch and the customer says, you know what, I have to do a re-KYC because his or her account has got dormant. Now, if you were to read, how do you use it? You build quick screens, deploy it, and we call it as micro apps, deploy it, and then it is available with all the necessary integration. So as the customer walks in, now you can quickly say, okay, come onto the table, get it going, do your KYCs, do your other enabled capabilities, biometrics, and you're out. That's just one simple use case, but you can make it very complex. You can even do a trade finance flow, which is your trade finance user on the front end, say a mid-sized corporate says, I want to do a guarantee. I'm seeking for a guarantee from the bank. He or she could use a front end to just upload. Now, when they upload all documents, that flows quickly into the back office, who essentially are able to harness the power of these platforms to be able to quickly validate that backed with some intelligence, multiple levels of intelligence, which one is called the OCR versus an AI, to essentially scan the document, give certain inputs, and essentially help fast track the process and look at it in a much more constructive way and create efficiencies to complete the transaction and give back. So I would just take off two, but I think we already have done quite a bit of these, and it's just growing and that's the power of a platform like what Nitin said. What tech should do is not be embedded into creating those micro apps. What tech should really do as a go forward when you have platforms coming in like low code approaches or no code approaches is essentially enable the platform, enable the guardrails, the standards and the approach that one needs to take, enrich and enable the users of how they should develop, how they should build it, and then enable the change, rather than tech being the guy becoming a blocker. So I think that's the shift that a technology to a business or an operational users need to be. Moving from being the person who stitches everything to being the collaborator and the enabler. I think that's a shift that such platforms do provide the power.
Absolutely. And with that kind of enabling, you also have your seamless operations, which is invaluable for banks. Now, Sunil would like to know, how does Newgen One, with its native low-code approach, address address the challenge of technology churn and empower businesses to build long-lasting solutions that can easily be updated?
Sure. I think long-lasting is, again, a subjective word, and Mahesh will agree to that. There is always a debate of build versus buy. So what a low-code platform like Newgen does, Newgen One does, it gives you the best of both. So you get the buy part of it, which is low-code, not just in the application development area, but even in the process area, even in AI, which is again low-code based. So you get that, and you build on top of that. We provide ready-made products for various verticals within banking, various sub-verticals and various specific products in retail, in MSME, and so on and so forth. There is still some level of customization that you need to do. So that's the build part, which we allow you to do. So, but the advantage is that part is easy to do for two reasons. One, because the platform gives you that ability. Second, there's a lot of intelligence which we have gathered over working in this domain for so many years. So you get those ready-made templates, you get those workflows, you get integrations which have already been built. So it makes your ability to, it makes it very easy for you to build on top of that. And it gives you longevity, because this is the platform which is used in banking across so many countries, across thousands of customers, and it has incorporated knowledge of various processes, various industries. So it allows you to it allows you to sustain it over a longer period of time. So which doesn't change, and kind of ensures you, future proofs you against having to rehash your stack too often.
All right, sir. Now I want to zoom in on the unified automation capability. How does Yes Bank benefit from it?
Well, immense benefits coming in from when you look at automation. Simple automation obviously spans across multiple opportunities, right? So one is you can look at your operational efficiencies. Now, what is mundane, screen 1, screen 2 to screen 10? When you have automation, the approach for the automation essentially says, how do I take all of this off, and can I make the data flow seamlessly? Or can I apply certain intelligence on top of it through workflows? So that is one part of the story. The other part of the story is, how do I enable customer service? So today, when you look at customer service in the front end, customer goes onto our portal on the web, and then he or she is saying, you know what, I want to have a checkbook. Now, does that checkbook essentially then go as we call it as a drop on the floor? or does it essentially use the power of the automation that we have on platforms like what Sunil mentioned, to be able to take that as a request, process the request, check whether the customer is due for a new this thing, and then push it into the vendor for processing. And when the vendor submits it back, how do I integrate it into my deliverables to make sure the customer is alerted? So that whole process, I'm just giving you a simple use case, but there are numerous use cases that really come in, journeys that come in. So automation helps you drive experience journeys, create efficiencies, and hence what they do, they drive cost effectiveness, while you're obviously giving an experience to the customer, who obviously will then create more stickiness with us. And at the same time also reduce risk. I think the big one we have to agree is reducing risk. Because earlier, if you were to do something manually, there is existing a risk of a manual intervention, who may or may not probably look at it, the finer details. But with automation, you possibly, and with, like he said, AI flavored on top of it, essentially gives you that power to quickly process with the data points and move it into steps and get it out fast.
So we usually hear about these terms automation and optimization, but thank you for matching the processes to that today. That's been very invaluable to us. Nitin, now data centricity is a top priority for businesses. How can tech-enabled transformation support the new data world?
I think my senior panelists here would agree. There is no dearth of data out there, right? We are struggling with a humongous deluge of data, I would say. And I think what is really going to be the key for any enterprise to be competitive and really make headways beyond their competition is how good they are at really making sure that data is the right data that they have, right? And when I say the right data, can they maintain the confidentiality of that data? Can they maintain the integrity of that data and also the availability of that data? I think if the CIA, as they call it, of the data world, right? If that can be maintained and managed, and there are lots of technologies, and when you say data now, everybody just quickly goes to talking about AI and ML and all of that. But before that, I think what really need to be, and especially in the banking industry, be aware of how are we going to manage this data with so many external ecosystem partners, as we heard, pushing their data back into the bank, as well as a lot of data going out there. So the ring fence which Mahesh spoke about is really going to be the most important thing, which will drive tech transformation in the right direction. Because already we are seeing industries and even the banking industry struggle with issues like the AI bias and the AI ethics and all of that, which is really going to make a big impact on what kind of customers banks on board, how do they really identify devious behaviors from those data. And we're just before this session talking with Mahesh around devious behaviors. How do they recognize those? And the last point which Mahesh made around the risk, how the risk can be minimized from the banking perspective is going to be the driver for data transformation and tech transformation. So I think those are the key points. Even before we reach into the dream world of AI, I think these are basics that need to be in place.
Yeah, the data is the new oil. You need to learn lessons from your own data and mine your own data.
And I think this is a topic I think we need some fine words from Mahesh as well
I
on
think
this.
absolutely. So do tell us, what are the sort of devious behavior patterns that, that you can kind of spot from data that if one weren't looking at it keenly, you could miss it?
Multiple things that, so see, today, I'll give you a simple example we were talking about is, take a case of payments, right? When you have payment data, now today with the era of where you have instant payments, when you have instant payments happening, the payment data moves across banks probably in a jiffy, even before you think, a UPR and IMPS. Now, when you club that, imagine a situation where you have someone who's opening an account in multiple locations, and for fraudulent intent, if I may say so, and then you start transferring data across and misuse it, how do you now catch it? How do you put the right levels of risk control on top of it? No, misuse. See, the point is that when you have a certain categories or transaction behaviors, your ability of today to use the power of technology to first detect and then use preventative measures to be able to stop such behaviors or intents is what is going to be very critical. And more so with the advent of digital capabilities and digitalization, these things are only going to increase. So it's very important, which is why I always believe that while technology enables you, it also fans more risk. And that risk has to be more actively managed than what we were doing 10 years ago. So I think to us, while data is absolutely the new oil, having the right levels of intelligence on top of the data and using that intelligence for the benefit and the safety is going to be very critical. That's the way I would put it.
That's a great note to end it on, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to thank all my panelists for their valuable time and for joining us today. Also, thank you so much for watching. And for more such engaging and insightful conversations, do stay tuned to our ongoing series.